Camera's rolling.
Sound speed?
Call Slate.
This is the Sights and Sounds Podcast, a show all about learning and growing in your filmmaking journey.
Hosted by Courtney Hawley and Jonathan Everett. Season 1. Market. Action.
On par with the camera that's on my iPhone.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, I would rather, if I had the money and I had the budget, I would rather have a good cinema camera than a phone on almost anything. There might be a couple use case scenarios where having a phone might be better for the style that you're going for. But by and large, cameras still will outshine the performance of a phone, but your phone can do incredible things, just like you said. I mean, when I got started making my own videos, I hadn't started directing yet, but I was recording my own auditions as an actor, and I was making YouTube videos for a failed YouTube channel. It failed in that it was destined to fail. It was a dumb idea, but I had, at the time, I bought a camcorder because camcorders were still a thing then.
Like a handheld one?
A handheld camcorder. I could put it on a tripod. And looking back on those videos and those audition tapes, I mean, they were terrible. Now, that was also around the time where phones weren't equivalent really either. So recording on my phone wasn't much of an option then. The capability had just kind of begun. But I thought, I need to go out and I need to get this camcorder. And it was bad. But what I could do now with my cell phone would 100 times better, maybe more.
Sure. And I mean, even back then, just saying to compare for the sake of comparison, like you said, when you had the camcorder, phones weren't really an option. So what did you have at your disposal back then? Well, you had a camcorder. And that allowed you to do those auditions. That allowed you, wow, I cannot talk. That allowed you to do those auditions and start putting your foot in the door to get something made.
Yep.
And I think that's the main point.
Yep.
You had that at your disposal and you utilized it. You didn't wait until you had a cinema camera. Mm-hmm. You did the darn thing.
Did the darn thing. Yeah. I mean, it's not like I bought an expensive camcorder for the time. Like I didn't make them. Now I made a mistake later, an equipment mistake later in my, once I started to actually want to direct and want to do photography and work as a cinematographer, do those sorts of things. I did make the mistake then of going out before I had a lot of skill in that area, going out and buying a camera that just blew past my own personal budget. I bought what is an outdated camera now. I still use it because I've learned how to use it and how to make great things with an older, cheaper camera by today's standards. But at the time, I had to take out like a Best Buy credit card and buy the thing. Yeah, I mean, I bought, it was only like $1,000, $1,200, I think, was what it cost at the time. But I put that thing on credit.
But that was more than you had, right?
And I didn't know what I was doing yet. Not really. I hadn't made by hand a film. I'd made one film by that point. One cringeworthy film, and I was only writing, directing. That sounds stupid. I was writing and directing and acting in it for the 54-hour film festival. But I didn't touch the camera, and I let most of the camera decisions be made by my director of photography for that because I didn't know yet. And then I went out and I was like, well, I'm going to buy this dang big camera, and I couldn't put quality out yet because I didn't have enough practice to merit $1,200 credit expense.
So that right there, that is exactly what this episode is about, is the fact that you don't need to be spending a ton of money when you haven't, I shouldn't say mastered, but you haven't cultivated any of the skills that would warrant needing that giant piece of expense and basically living above your means when it comes to being a creative person. So, wow, that is a huge thing to learn from. Yeah. Like, in retrospect, would you buy that? Would you take out the money credit wise and buy that camera again?
No. Not at that same skill level. I mean, me today, I probably wouldn't take out the money credit wise just for different reasons, or at least not that much of it. But me today, I would definitely buy the camera because I've learned to use it. But going back, if I was going to go advise myself then, what I would tell myself is, all right, Jonathan, you've got a cell phone. It's not as good as the one I have, gosh, 10 years later.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still usable. You've got the cell phone, use that, make a few films, learn how to play with lighting, learn how to get good composition in your shots, how to move the camera when you need to move it. Learn these basics first, and then go out and spend the money and first see what you can make with it.
Right.
One thing I've begun to just challenge myself on in general for any aspect of film work or even other creative endeavors I do is to say, how can I do this thing that it looks like I shouldn't be able to do with what I have? And that applies to...
That's such a good challenge to yourself too.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And then it applies to more than just the technical side too. I think we're bogging down in the technical side because I think everybody
that's where money is
has...
spent.
Yeah, everybody has a technical side. Even if you're an actor, you're going to want something.
You want your self-tapes to look good.
Right.
You want, yeah.
But there is the other side of it too. And that is the actual production. If you're a filmmaker, a cinematographer in the making, anything like that, and you're wanting to make films, you might also be getting caught up in the idea of, I've got to have a budget to do this effect or to have this location or to tell this story.
Mm-hmm.
And while sometimes that is true, there are some things you cannot get around having the budget. You can adapt almost anything to your constraints.
Oh, 100%. And I can even go, let's talk about makeup department in this section. Like just from what you said there. Back when I first moved to Nashville, it's a film you and I were both on, but we didn't know each other yet.
Oh yeah. I know. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on set and like this particular, now I was cast as an actor in this. And this particular scene took place in the middle of this overgrown field. And it was this chase scene with like sci-fi guns and like all kinds of stuff like that. And my character was supposed to get shot down. And nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, but seemingly nobody thought about the effect for a close-up of like finding me dead. And so they get to this point where they want to shoot this close-up of people discovering me dead. And like there was this, I had like a mask on and stuff like that. And they wanted to peel it back and reveal like this, because it was very sci-fi and very, like steampunk, that they're weapons that don't exist. So like we needed to create this wound on my face. And no one thought to bring anything makeup wise to do that.
which is just quick aside. Pre-production is huge.
Yes.
You gotta think through your shots.
If you want that shot.
no matter your budget, like if you didn't prepare for what's actually happening in a scene, you're gonna run into a problem like this.
So they looked at me, like director and just the rest of the crew looked at me and they're like, wait a second, you do makeup, right? And I was like, yeah, when I have the materials for it. And I mean, I always bring to set, I should say, I always bring to set a small makeup kit. And it's usually just street makeup, like my, mascara, eyeliner, like as...
Right, that's to look camera ready.
To look camera ready if there's nobody there to do it, or just to have it at my disposal. So I had to MacGyver this wound. So if for whatever reason there is like a YouTube video that comes out of this, we will show a picture of what this makeup turned out to be, because I managed to make a wound, a like half of my face wound, out of tissue, eyelash glue, lipstick, and some of my foundation to like blend it into my skin. That is my story of you work with what you already have. Or you work with what you have at your disposal. I mean, you and I have talked about this so many times of how can I make that practical effect so that I'm not relying on somebody that I need to hire to do CGI.
Yeah.
Or
Well, and you know, I think this is a testament to having started in timed film competitions and doing timed film competitions.
oh yeah,
You learn very quickly that creativity is bolstered by constraints.